Welcome aboard Imagination Skyway, your grand podcast tour of the magic. I'm your host, Matthew Kroll, and in today's episode, we're going to do something different. I am actually going to be interviewed live from Walt Disney World to discuss some reflections on what is now 17 years since I completed the Disney College program. Feels like a lifetime ago, and I've done an episode or two about this in the past, but the chance to reflect back on working at Kilimanjaro Safaris at Disney's Animal Kingdom live from that theme park was incredible. I want to give a special thanks to my cousin Mike for coming up with the idea and for heading to Walt Disney World with me to interview me and ask some questions about what it was like to take part in the Disney College program, what I learned, and some other reflections looking back on, incredible to say, 17 years since I participated in this program, and I certainly do hope that you enjoy listening. At the end of the show, we'll return to Imagination Central, where I'll share ways in which you can stay connected with Imagination Skyway, how you can discuss this topic with others, and how you can help support and inspire the future of this show. Please remain seated, keep your hands and arms inside the podcast at all times, and enjoy your grand circle tour aboard Imagination Skyway.
So hi Matthew, how are you?
I'm doing well, Michael. How are you?
Doing good, thanks. This is an interesting flip where now I'm going to be interviewing you for a change.
I'm nervous. I'm usually the one in control, and now you're the one in control.
You decided that this is how it's going to go,
yeah.
So now I'm going to be in control for a change.
I relinquished control to you for this episode, but you're a podcaster, you know what
I'm a podcaster as well, that's absolutely correct, and I always love to hear people's origin stories, and fortunately, I know your origin story, if you will.
We've known each other since before my podcast origin story.
Yes, I would say so.
It all began back in the 80s.
So, for full context, of course, is that we are both, we're cousins. So we've always loved Disney. And we were very fortunate growing up that our parents would take us to Walt Disney World almost every year. Like it became a ritual, if you will, for us. And we would oftentimes go down as a whole group. Both of the families would get together to come and experience Walt Disney World. So I know that Walt Disney World has always been a special place for all of us.
Yeah.
But I was always curious, though, is that how did you find out about the Disney College program specifically?
I didn't know about it until I got into college, and a friend of mine who was older than I was, you might remember Carrie from Baton, because your mom taught
yes.
Baton. My sister went to Baton, so we both knew Carrie. She went to the same school that I did. So when I was thinking about going to that school, I ended up walking through the campus with her, and she mentioned to me that she had done the Disney College program because she knew that I was a big Disney fan. And keep in mind, this was before the rise of social media. Facebook was just emerging at this time. MySpace was the big thing. So there wasn't a lot of information like there is today, where you see other people on Instagram and on Facebook and on TikTok doing the Disney College program. So I didn't have any knowledge of it until I got into college. And as soon as she said that, I realized that was something I wanted to do. So I ended up applying as soon as I found out, my freshman year in the spring, to do this in the fall of my sophomore year. But it was through somebody else. I had no idea that this was even possible. I knew I wanted to work for Disney one day, and that was my goal going into college, and this seemed like the perfect gateway to get there.
That's amazing. So if I understand correctly, is through the Disney College program, so you go through the application process, right? So can you talk a little bit more about that as well? So how did that process work to actually get to the point of from the point of submission to being accepted?
Yeah, it's different today than it was. So back then, this is a little retro going back in the past. This was 2006, 2007. You applied online through your local campus, and they would bring a campus manager from the Disney College program who represented your area to the school. They would do a presentation, and then from there, you would end up, we could probably go over here for a second. From there, you would actually end up, applying on the spot and getting interviewed on campus while that recruiter was still there before moving on to the next campus. So it was almost the next day, if I remember correctly, or the next 2 days later, that I actually ended up interviewing with the Disney College program. But it was all done within a matter of a few days at my local campus, which is a little bit different today.
Wow, so it was a very quick process.
It was. I didn't get my letter until 2-3 weeks later, but that was, and today it's email, but I literally got a letter in the mail saying that I was accepted to the Disney College program.
That was probably a really exciting day.
I sound like I'm around in the 70s, the way that pre-email. Email was around, but they just did everything. I may have gotten confirmation emails after the fact, but I got a physical letter in the mail saying I was accepted to the Disney College program.
That's incredible. So, I'm sure you were very excited when that came in.
Yeah, and the recruiter was first of all, the interviews were group interviews, so I forgot to mention that. So there were 3 of us that had the same interview at the same time, and the recruiter, I think his name was John, ended up going from one person to the next, asking us similar questions and maybe pivoting from one person to the next. But after the end of the interview, he said to all 3 of us, the next step in the process was we were going to be getting a letter in the mail, and when you open it, you're probably going to be happy with what you see. So we got the hint that we probably were accepted at that point. So I was expecting it, but it was still amazing that I was now going to be working for Disney, and I always wanted to do that. It was a literal childhood dream come true.
Now, if I understand correctly, do you have any influence as far as what position you're going to be as cast member, or is that automatically selected for you?
Short of Jedi mind tricks, you have very little influence on what you do. I think if I take that back. You have some level of control. You apply for specific roles. At least when I did this, you applied for specific roles. So I checked off 3 or 4 boxes, and it was advisable not to do one, not to do everything. Very similar to applying to colleges. You want to have a fair set of a mix. You want to have your dream role, your reach roles, and then your backup role. So my dream role was attractions, but now you can select attractions. Back then it was just operations, which could mean attractions. It could have meant parking operations. It could have meant anything that literally has to do with the physical operations of the park. So I applied for operations, and then I had, I think, character attendant and vacation planner, which are the cast members working in the ticket booths, and food and beverage, because I realized I had experience working at my first job at Dunkin' Donuts with food and beverage, even if it meant that while that was not my dream role, it was a tangential skill that I could take with me from my first job. But beyond that, they select based on your interview what you're going to be selected to do. So I was very happy I got picked for operations, and I made it known that was my preference, that I would be willing to do whatever it took to work for Disney, but if I had my choice, I would select operations as really the role I was the most interested in.
Which is funny enough, because we are recording this right now at Gorilla Falls in the park that you ended up working for, which was the driver for Kilimanjaro Safari.
The one and only of many.
The one and only driver.
It's amazing. Every single time, no matter what, I got Symbol 1. I was a very lucky game driver.
So, what was your feeling that, of course you were very, enthusiastic about the fact that you got operations, but specifically when you found out that it was Kilimanjaro Safari that you would be operating?
It's interesting. When I was growing up, my family, when Animal Kingdom opened, I was 10 years old, 10 years old. And my family visited during the preview phase in April of 1998, before Earth Day. They had a soft opening. We happened to be visiting, and we were invited to go for the soft opening. And the early days of Disney's Animal Kingdom were very different, mostly because there were a lot of insects. and especially I just distinctly remember it being very muggy and very buggy. And so my parents got this impression of Disney's Animal Kingdom, which is not what it is today. And because of that, we didn't go to Disney's Animal Kingdom a lot. Plus, none of us wanted to do dinosaur. My sister and I were not thrill junkies. My mom was, but my dad got motion sick on everything, so we weren't doing dinosaur. We liked Kilimanjaro Safaris, but we didn't really, other than the shows and stuff, my family never really came here a lot. So when I opened that letter, part of me wanted to get a really exciting roller coaster attraction. I wanted to work at Space Mountain or Rock and Roller Coaster or something along those lines. But when I saw Kilimanjaro Safaris, at first I thought, oh, that's an interesting role. That wouldn't be something I would pick right off the bat. In hindsight, it ended up being the best attraction to work at, by far. And
Really?
I am really happy that I got it. And once I went through the training process and I started doing the role, I realized how much fun it was. And even, I think, before starting the training, I realized what a learning opportunity was going to be and how dynamic and exciting. Because a lot of the attractions, if you think about it, are very regimented. So if you were to work at Space Mountain, as exciting as like that, I'm a attraction geek, so I would love like pushing those buttons all day and watching those air gates open and close and the kinetic energy of watching a roller coaster. But that's not quite as challenging as physically having to drive a safari vehicle, memorize animal facts and conservation messages, and operate a dynamically evolving attraction that's literally never the same twice. So it taught me how to speak extemporaneously, not memorizing a script. Memorizing facts and memorizing certain important scripts like the safety. I had to know the safety spiel. I had to know some of the key conservation messages that had to be incorporated. The banter back then with Wilson Matua was very scripted, so those were things that I definitely needed to memorize. But beyond that, it was all learning how to adapt and speak on the fly, and those translated well to my career and to, of course, podcasting.
Oh, I'm sure, because I mean, it's very challenging when you're doing these type of interviews to making sure that there is some sort of banter between, and depending upon where the conversation's going, you are adapting how you're speaking to your guests and what questions you're going to be asking them.
It's
literally
so
what we're
much
doing right now.
adaptability. Yeah, it's literally, we're adapting on the spot, and it had to be a conversational attraction, and that made it more authentic, because even if I knew where in the safari specific animals might be, which is today the script is very, if you ride Kilimanjaro Safaris, it's very honest about it being a safari attraction, because you'll hear the cast members say, up on the left is where the hyenas live. But the 2007 script was meant to be, you were in the middle of a large, tremendous, literal reserve, the Harambe Wildlife Reserve. So I was not supposed to know where the animals were. It was meant to be a real safari where you would walk through and drive through at any given time. You might, on a real safari, encounter an animal. The safari guides have a rough idea of generally where the animals live in the reserve, but you don't know for sure if the animal's going to be there or not. And so I had to be surprised whenever I saw an animal, and oftentimes I was able to be surprised anyway, because I might have just gone around and all of a sudden the animal was somewhere else because it had moved somewhere else. So it allowed me to be a little bit more authentic, because it is such a literal wild attraction that the animals have free rein to, within limits, go wherever they want.
Which brings to the authenticity of the entire attraction.
Yeah.
Is the ability that they're roaming freely for the most part.
Yeah, that's right. They are free roaming animals, just like is described, and you get more. This is the other difference, is now there's a lot more backstage that's revealed. Back then, the backstage magic was a lot more reverential, and you didn't, as a guest, know too much about the backstage elements or operations unless you worked there or did a behind-the-scenes tour. Now, with Disney Plus, you have the magic of Disney's Animal Kingdom, where they literally take you behind the scenes to the veterinary staff and the places where the elephants live and the lions live. And so guests know, and it's okay to know, that this is not a real safari, it's not a real African savanna, but we can still come here and make believe, and it's still amazing that we're experiencing live animals, which is very different from, let's say, the Jungle Cruise, where you have the old school animatronic animals that are there. It adds a much different element when they are animals that can really do whatever they want, and go within limits, again, wherever they want as well.
And also, too, it's good to see how the Disney cast members take care of the animals as well. And it's nice to see that behind the scenes. In fact, when we came here last year, we went to, I believe it was called Rafiki's Watch?
Rafiki's Planet Watch.
Planet Watch, thank you.
It's just a conservation station. They're sort of interchangeable names.
Yeah, so that was amazing because I've never been there before, and it was really incredible to watch them in action taking care of the animals that are in the park.
Yeah, yeah. Let's keep walking, and we'll
Okay,
keep.
yeah,
I know we
absolutely.
kind of ducked out to this spot here near
I'm
the
kind of
research
letting
center.
you lead the way, even though I'm doing the interview here.
Follow me into the research center.
Yes. Thank you. Also nice to get a little bit of air.
Oh yes, and I love the bird sanctuary here.
So do you remember your first ride, the first one that you did?
Distinctly, because this was, pun intended, feeding me to the lion's den. They were smart about pushing us very quickly to get very comfortable with discomfort. So historically, as a kid, I was a perfectionist. I've grown out of it because I realized that perfection is not what we strive for. We strive for growth and excellence. And that's because perfection freezes us up. And this was a really clear example of perfection freezing me up, because it was probably day 3 of training. And keep in mind, and so far these 3 8-hour days, had to learn how to drive a larger vehicle than I had ever driven before. I had to memorize animal facts, having no background in zoology or animal research, and all the safety operations and everything about this attraction. And so day 3, in the beginning, I was just learning how to get comfortable with driving the vehicle, because safety is the most important aspect of being a cast member at Disney, and being a guest for that matter. So they had to make sure that I was physically capable of safely driving a vehicle. So I would drive it without guests. We'd go around the track. Once my trainer felt like it was safe enough for me to bring guests on board, which was very quickly, by the way, then I think it was the first day, I think maybe like our third, I don't remember how many rounds I had done, but I got the hang of it really fast. So Jeff was my trainer. He invited guests on board, and when he invited guests on board, then he would, being an experienced cast member at the attraction, deliver the entire script as the lead game driver. I was physically driving, but he was the one leading the safari.
So they kind of like leaned you into it a little bit.
Right, and I think then the next day, if I remember, in the morning, we learned, and I had to learn the other elements of the attraction too, not just the game driver position, but all the what we call the land positions, everything that's not on a truck but on land. So I had to learn about fast pass distribution, now Genie Plus and Lightning Lane. I had to learn about how to safely load and unload guests and all those other elements. And so I remember we started in the morning, and I think it was the first thing, he just kind of like threw me right into it. He wanted to know what I had learned. Oh, this is amazing.
Yeah, we were
Look
seeing
at
one of
this
the
gorilla.
gorillas
Hello.
trying to sleep right now. Yeah, don't blame him. I could take a nap too.
Yeah, the hotter it gets too. So,
Do you remember facts, by the way, about like?
well, I didn't need to know gorilla facts,
You didn't know. Oh, that's
because
right.
there are no
they're not-
gorillas
they're
on
not-
Kilimanjaro
Okay,
Safaris.
that's true.
That's what we lean on the guests, the experts at Gorilla Falls Exploration Trail for their
That's-
knowledge. But I remember first thing in the morning, Jeff said, all right, we're gonna go through. I want to see how much you've learned in your studying the script and the animal fact. So we drove through. I felt like I did a C job, right? C plus, especially given that this was only day 2, day 3. I'm still learning everything. And I tried to memorize as much as I could. I might have messed up an animal fact or two, maybe didn't get the numbers quite right or didn't connect the right animals, but I did a passable job, let me tell you that. I did a passable job. And so we got to unload. I finished with just the 2 of us. And he's like, great, turn off your hazards. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, we're going to take guests now. I'm like, seriously? And he's like, yeah, we're going to take guests now. I'm like, I don't know how guests are going to feel about this. He's like, you're going to do great. Let's go. So literally just said, as if teaching me how to swim, just like, let's throw you in the pool. Let's see how you do. So we did it. I was a nervous wreck, but I did it. And Jeff, as soon as we got to unload and I parked, he said, hey, by the way, everybody, this was Matt's first safari. And everyone gave me this big round of applause.
Oh, that's amazing.
And said I did a great job. And he's like, let's do it again. So we did it again. And he's like, all right, let's have lunch. And then we just talked about how it went and obviously gave me some feedback. But there was no better way to learn than he knew that there was not going to be a point at which I was going to feel comfortable doing this. So he felt comfortable enough that I knew what I was doing, or that he knew that I knew enough to safely do it, to give guests a good enough experience, and just let me have it. But by the time I got to my assessment, whether it was meant to give me a boost of my confidence or whatever it might be, but by the time I was being assessed, which you're assessed by, or at the time I was assessed by one of the managers of the attraction, that I got through at the end, and the manager said, so that was one of the best assessments I've ever done.
Wow.
And that made me feel really good. And so I knew from that point it became a practice, and I was just going to continue to develop this craft, and ended up being an amazing attraction to work at.
I'm sure too, because of the fact that you need to do it over and over again.
Yeah, repetition.
Repetition.
Yeah. Practice makes permanent. I love Gorilla Falls.
Yeah.
The gorillas are just so beautiful, peaceful,
Majestic. I agree.
such wonderful animals.
This is such a beautiful trail too.
Yeah, I don't think, there's
another one.
Oh, another one.
Look, there's more.
People should do these walking trails more, which is why I wanted to do this walk and talk on the trail.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can even, if you're listening to this, hopefully you can hear how peaceful it is in the background. It's a great escape during the day. It is hot, so there's not a ton of shade, but
there's
still
some
a great
shade,
thing
and
there.
they're in the shade, and one of them's snacking right now. Definitely what
you
are we
develop-
technically at this point? Second breakfast?
Yeah, it's like a breakfast. And you develop such a fondness for the animals too. It makes you want to take action. It makes you want to protect wildlife and wild places, which is the genius of this park. Something that Joe Rohde knew very well when he let the famous story of him bringing a tiger into the board meeting after he had heard that some of the executives thought that animals were boring. He didn't say anything, and as the story goes, he just knew he was going to let this happen. He's giving his presentation to the board on the pitch for Disney's Animal Kingdom and talking about how animals are exciting, animals are dynamic, animals are wild. And at some point, they let a tiger into the room, controlled, but they let a tiger into the room, and Joe didn't stop. He just kept delivering the presentation, but watched the eyes of all the executives, and he said after that, he never heard again that animals were boring.
It's amazing how examples are everything,
Yes.
right? And I think that's what's truly amazing is that it's not just about hearing about them, it's about experiencing them in person.
That's right.
It's very different than watching a video.
It can't be conveyed through video the same way it is in person.
There's another one hiding in the bushes by the tree. Here he is. Look at him. Eating something.
Truly amazing.
Absolutely.
Okay. So we're talking about how repetition is permanent, which I love that, by the way, and then practice is permanent.
Practice permanent. That comes from my friend Richard.
I like that.
He's a gym owner for kids gymnastics, and that's a phrase they use with the kids.
I love that phrase. So, and you done the Disney College program for a number of years, right? So it was usually during the summers.
I only did one Disney College program.
You only did one.
Yeah, I did the Fall Advantage, so it lasted for about 8 months, but then I stayed on as a seasonal cast member beyond that.
So is that pretty standard to transition to a seasonal cast member from the college program?
It used to be, and it still is a possible transition to make. Back then, the standards were different for seasonal cast members, so I don't know all the details of what it's like today. Back then it was quite easy as long as you had a clean record card and you were recommended by your manager to be able to then continue on seasonally, especially if you wanted to. For my case, I wanted to go back and finish college. It was going to be really important for me, but I didn't want to sever that connection with Disney, and I thought I would return to a full-time capacity. My plans changed, but had I had the continued interest, I could have easily then transitioned to part-time or full-time role coming back and continued to work my way through different roles of the company.
I'm sure too that now you have a whole different type of appreciation, specifically for not only just being a cast member, but also for Animal Kingdom as a park itself.
I definitely have a different perspective working here. Knowing the Imagineering is also key to my understanding of this park, but being in a position where I've had experience working here, it definitely makes me appreciate what this park accomplishes, and it also gives me a greater appreciation for the cast members working here. I'm incredibly empathetic of what it's like to work in this park, and all other parks for that matter. And so I view cast members not that drastically differently than when I was a guest, but I have a deeper understanding that has continued to deepen my appreciation for the cast member roles here.
So we're almost done with the trail, aren't we?
We are at the end of the trail.
Okay,
We could, if we want to, maybe go through a couple of wrap-up questions on our way back
Sure.
through Harambe.
I do, yeah, absolutely. So actually I only have probably one wrap-up question for you, because this was amazing talk, but if looking back now, I would say this: if you were able to pick which attraction you would do, nowadays, I'll say now, if you were accepted into the program now and you had the ability to choose outside of Kilimanjaro Safari, so I won't let you pick your baby, but what attraction would you do?
Star Wars: Rise of the Resistance.
That would be a really
Very
good
easy
one.
answer, because that role, that attraction, the role at that attraction still requires a great deal of storytelling in the cast member role, and you get to play two roles, the Resistance and the First Order. And how fun would that be? I don't know if you switch during the day, you'd have to switch costumes. It's probably one day you're First Order, one day you're Resistance. I'm sure someone from Star Wars: Rise of the Resistance will be writing me to correct me if I'm wrong, because I really don't know. But how amazing would that be that one day you wake up and you're with the Resistance, you're helping to build that excitement for helping to, join the Resistance and battle against the First Order, and then the next day you are inside in the air conditioning on the Star Destroyer, and you are intimidating and fun. It would be so cool to play both of those roles, I think. And then for me, I love watching attractions cycle, and I would love to see the trackless ride vehicles, the R5 units, the R5 prisoner transport cycle all day. That would be so much fun.
Well, I think that was a great answer. I would probably agree with you if I was going to choose as well. I can't think of anything better. But here we are in beautiful Animal Kingdom. It's a gorgeous day outside, not too hot. But and I love going on Kilimanjaro Safari, because as you mentioned, every single time it's a different experience, and again, just seeing the animals there. I mean, next to being on an actual safari, I mean, this is like a great experience, and especially for kids as well to be able to see these animals in person, and the fact that it changes every single time. It's just a wonderful, wonderful attraction.
And I could say, having been on this attraction literally hundreds, if not thousands of times now, I still love riding Kilimanjaro Safaris, and it is different every time I experience it. It's true, no two safaris are the same. It is absolutely different every time you ride this attraction, which makes it, the rewritability factor of this attraction is higher than any other.
Wow. Well, thank you so much, Matt. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you for the questions.
Welcome back to Imagination Central. As you disembark, please remember to remain fully seated until the podcast comes to a complete stop. Then gather your belongings and watch your head and step as you exit. After you exit the episode, I encourage you to engage with the show by following Imagination Skyway on your favorite social media app. And if you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to share it with anyone who might enjoy our discussion today, and leave us a rating or review in your favorite podcast app. If you're listening on Spotify or already following us on social media, be sure to answer our question associated with this episode, which is for you to tell me either one, where you participated in the Disney College Program, what your role was, if you have participated in the program before. If you haven't participated in the Disney College Program, what would be your preferred role for this experience? In addition, be sure to explore Imagination Skyway on the Patreon app or at patreon.com, where you can enjoy bonus content, join a private community of listeners, and help support the show. I've said this before, I'm going to say it again. Our Patreon members literally have kept the podcast running since 2017. It would not be possible to run this show without our Patreon subscribers. So as always, I want to extend my sincerest thanks to every Patreon member listening, past or present, and perhaps even future. Plus, if you're looking for more short-form content that covers the latest Disney news, be sure to check out my other podcast, Imagination Skyway News. Episodes are usually about 5 to 6 minutes in length, offering bite-sized overviews of the latest Disney news, providing nothing but the facts, and making sure you are up to date with what's happening at the Disney parks and beyond. Thank you so much for riding aboard Imagination Skyway, and remember, if we can dream it, we can do it.